You're all set.
Good morning, everybody. I would love to call the meeting to order. The time is 9:03. Stephanie, would you please take attendance?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Ava Bermuda Zimmerman has not joined us yet. Isha Canada, I don't think Isha has joined us yet. Adrian Cochran,
Present.
Sheila Hummel,
Present. Good morning.
good morning. Molly Weston Williamson,
Present.
and Justin Zartman will not be joining us. We do not have a quorum.
Thank you, Stephanie. I want to take a moment just to acknowledge we have a number of members of the public with us this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so glad to have you. Next on our agenda is to review and approve the November minutes. So since we do not have a quorum, we're going to go ahead and skip that step. The third item on our agenda had been to discuss and vote on duration and frequency of meetings. We will not be having a vote if we don't have a quorum. But we could do some discussion to at least sort of set the groundwork for future conversations. So Sheila and Adrian, would you prefer to have a preliminary discussion now and we'll wait and have a vote when we have a quorum to have a vote, or would you rather wait for the discussion until a future meeting?
No, I like the idea of at least having a preliminary discussion. I realize there's not a great representation, but at least to know kind of where we are anyway. Thank you for asking.
Thank you, Adrienne. So in that case, I will ask Erin to lead us in an initial discussion, knowing that we will not have a vote until and unless we have a quorum to have a vote with.
Yes.
All right, so thank you so much. The purpose of the discussion is really to get a temperature check from the committee as to the frequency with which you would like to meet in 2025. For the past 5 years, every board meeting and every committee has been scheduled to meet on a monthly basis. At the board meeting last week, the board voted to maintain that monthly cadence for the board meetings because there's always something to vote on and there's always information that we need to share. But the board as a whole recognize that the different committees have different responsibilities and therefore perhaps different needs. Generally speaking, committee meetings are where we solicit ideas and feedback. They can be brainstorming sessions for new initiatives. They're also where we kind of road test ideas, which we'll be doing in a few minutes on the next agenda item, so we can get them fully developed before we bring them to the board. In other committees, policy and personnel, they review the policies before going to the board. In finance, they tend to go into more detail on some of the financial issues. And so in some of those requirements have deadlines, right? Outreach and engagement tends not to have deadlines. It is a huge part of our work. It is a huge part of our mission. We absolutely value your input and advice to us, but we also recognize that there are often meetings where we go through things really quickly, and it can be difficult to have yet another meeting on your schedule. So if the committee wants to meet less frequently, we will absolutely support that. If the committee wants to continue to meet on a monthly basis, we'll absolutely support that too. We just want to really hear from you. What is your preference?
Thank you so much, Erin. And I think also the context about the other two committees, which either have monthly financial reports to review or often have policies that need to go to the board. And so less frequent meetings would delay moving those forward is helpful. I will note this committee almost never has votes other than to approve our own minutes, which I think is an indicia of, I think we are doing valuable and useful work in supporting the team, but I think it is not time sensitive, often in the same ways. Recognizing that unless we have another committee member pop up unexpectedly today, will not have a vote today. My general feeling is I don't think we need to meet monthly. We often have 15 or 20-minute meetings. I think we could accomplish the work of this committee by meeting every other month and free up some time on our schedules. I'll also say my strong preference is that if we're going to reduce the frequency of meetings, that we pick a set cadence of reduced frequency that we announce in advance so that particularly I think while we all get the emails if meetings are pulled down, like I think it is harder for members of the public to track things if they don't know which meetings are real and which ones are going to get pulled down. So I think if it is the feeling of the committee when we have a quorum with which to make such votes that we want to reduce the frequency, I think picking an appropriate cadence, whether that's sticking to monthly or going to every other month or even quarterly, I think picking one and trying to stick to that pretty rigorously is a better practice. Adrian and Sheila, how are you feeling about the meeting cadence?
I think every other month. I think have a set, date and time and have it every other month. I agree with everything you said. I feel that it's not like we vote on anything, and I think what we do is very, very important, but I think we can handle it, every other month, or I don't think there would be an issue. We could always communicate by email too if we needed to on such matters. So I go with every other month.
And I
Sheila,
agree as well. I think I had a fair amount to say at the board meeting, so I think it suffices to just say now that I agree with the every other month.
thank you, Adrian. And I appreciate the benefit of having these meetings be the week after the board meeting is we're well teed up.
Yeah.
A rigorous and fruitful discussion last week. So given that we don't have a quorum, I think the appropriate move is we bear in mind what we have all said and thought, and look forward to potentially having a vote at next month's meeting in January. I do think it's probably helpful planning ahead in an appropriate and public way to make sure we're signaling prior to that meeting that it'll hopefully be a voting meeting, in the hopes of encouraging a quorum of folks. But I think that is all that is appropriate for us to do on this front at this point. Thank you so much, Sheila and Adrian, for your thoughts, and thank you, Erin, for leading us in the discussion. And we will revisit this when we have a quorum with which to make decisions. I enjoy the irony of talking about how we rarely vote. How it goes. With that, I think next on our agenda is our outreach and engagement updates. So I'm going to turn it over to Jessica.
Thank you. Thanks, Molly. Good morning, everyone. So what I wanted to review today is, since we're at year end, excuse me, and it's been a while since I kind of took a deep dive with this group into our digital analytics. I was looking at that and I thought there were some interesting highlights that I wanted to share with you today. So I looked at last December through the end of November to encompass a 12-month period and compared it to that same period the year prior. So when you see year over year, that's the comparison of those 12 months. So in terms of our website, we've had 2.37 million total sessions this year, which was up 20% year over year, which is great. And our bounce rate was down 12%. And a low bounce rate is good because it means people are not coming and leaving your site very quickly. They're staying for a while. Our total users were 861,000. That was down 4% year over year. It's a small percentage, so I'm not concerned about it, but it, something that we'll continue to monitor. 70% of our users were new and 25% were remaining, and then 5% were unknown. We had almost 11 million page views, which was up 28% year over year. Not surprising because this period of time encompasses, it was the middle of September of 23 when we launched our new website. So for this time period that we're talking about, we had a lot more content that we added to the site for people to take a look at. So it makes sense to me that our page views are up, and I love to see that it was such a high percentage. Our top traffic sources, direct still remains our #1, which is great. It means we're branding ourselves. People are, they're typing in our website and coming to us directly. Organic search is second, and paid search is third. So I think that indicates that we sort of have a nice, robust plan that is getting people to us in many different ways. It's branding us. It's also giving them ways to find us if they're not as familiar with Connecticut paid leave. And I'll show you in one of the other slides what the top keywords are that they're searching for. And then most visited pages, how CT paid leave works, the subpage paid leave and FMLA, which I know makes us all happy because it's always something we talk about. And so I'm glad that people are making use of that page. Underneath claims, the how to apply page, and then under for businesses and employers, the I am an employer page. Those were our top 3 viewed pages. Looking at our social media, so starting with Facebook, and I'll just note that this really is Facebook and Instagram, because when you do paid advertising campaigns, it's the Meta platform, and so it runs across both. So this really encompasses both of those. So our new page likes were up 10%, and our page followers were up 11%. Total likes on our posts, that's both paid and organic, were up 12%. In terms of demographics, 58% of the ad clicks on our paid ads were by women, and the largest age group was 55-64, and then followed by 65 plus and 45-54, which I just not surprised by it, because Facebook tends to skew a little bit of an older audience, but I just thought that that was interesting information. And then this was surprising to me. Our employer-focused ads performed the best in terms of click-through rates. So we had anywhere between a 2.3 and a 4.5%. And just for benchmarking purposes, a good click-through rate is considered anywhere between 2 and 5. So those ads really performed well. LinkedIn, our followers grew pretty substantially, up 28%. Ad clicks were up 21%, and our click-through rates were between 0.5 and 1.04. And a good click-through rate for this channel is between 0.5 and 1. Instagram, this is just looking at more of the organic side of it. As I mentioned, this box that's labeled as Facebook looks at the paid part of the Instagram ads as well. But our engagement rates were up by 11%, and our followers were up by 25%. And then lastly, for TikTok, over 3.5 million impressions. And sort of the opposite story of the Facebook story, the largest age group with clicks was 18 to 24, and then 25-34. So that tracks with that TikTok audience. What I love is that between the different channels we're using, we really are kind of hitting the gamut of younger folks on up to people who are, in their 60s and even beyond. With TikTok, the clicks were fairly evenly distributed between men and women at 43 and 46%. Our UGC content, so if you'll remember, we have a bunch of different ones that we're sort of swapping in and out about every 2-ish months. That had the highest click-through rate, and the highest one was 3.76%, which is incredible, because a good click-through for TikTok is anything above 1%. So that was really great to see. In terms of YouTube, we had 910,000 total views, which was up 23% year over year. 92% of published videos during that time period. Please excuse my typo there that I just noticed. I have things separated out into playlists so that they're easier for folks to find. So I have a playlist for the Paid Leave podcast, one for spotlights, one for testimonials, one for tutorial videos, etc. So the podcast playlist led our views at almost 45%. The spotlight came in second at 22, and then our testimonial videos, which are our users who we have a series of them talking about their experience with paid leave, at 18. We had 64% new viewers and 34% remaining. And in terms of demographics, a quarter of our viewers are 65 and older, and 21% are 55 to 64. So we are seeing a bit of that older audience with our YouTube views. Google Analytics, so these are our, Google Ads, so these are our paid search ads. 3.76 million impressions, was up 44% year over year. So we did engage in a more robust campaign this year. The 25-34 and 35-44 were pretty much even in terms of the highest number of clicks. And then the 45-54 and 55-64 were also pretty sizable groups. Interestingly, but also, again, not surprisingly, women click at our ads at a 2-to-1 ratio over men. So women are, by and large, the more prevalent group seeking out information about us. Top keywords, I think these, since the last time we looked at them, they haven't changed too much. CT paid leave, so people, again, like knowing us by name and searching for us directly. FMLA, CT paid leave login, interestingly. So maybe that's, businesses coming to make their quarterly contributions. FMLA CT and CT paid leave org. So again, I just wanted to share some of the highlights over the course of the year. There are areas definitely that I would like to improve upon. And so I'll be discussing all this in more detail with our digital advertising partner, Miranda Creative, to just talk about how can we capitalize on the things that worked really well, like the UGC content, and then how can we make improvements upon things that needed a little bit more of a boost. So happy to answer any questions on any of that.
Thanks so much, Jessica. Any questions for Jessica? Well, thank you for all of the work that led to that year of excellent and growing statistics. And I especially appreciate the context on what's a good click-through rate, because otherwise I have no frame of reference for any of those numbers. Next on our agenda is podcast updates, so I'll turn it over to Nancy.
Good morning, everybody. Let me share my screen. Make sure. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Yes. Oh, okay, great.
Yes.
So far for the podcast, we have 6,091 downloads since we started the podcast in February of 2022. So I'm happy that this graph keeps going up. That makes me happy to see that. In December, we did the season of giving, and this podcast has already been released. And oops, sorry about that. And Caroline Ruitt, she is the marketing director for Access Health, and we continue our partnership with them. And we highlighted their program, their enrollment fairs, and they continue through January. And something that I didn't know, they have their year-round locations for changes of life circumstances. So if someone loses their job in June and they can't get COBRA, they can get health care at that time through Access Health. And Maddie had made a really great one sheet, and they have a QR code on the one sheet. And so they are putting those up at their enrollment fair. So when people want to get more information about us, they absolutely can. And the next season of Giving podcast is going up on Monday. That's with Lisa Tepper Bates. She's the president and CEO of United Way of Connecticut. And we discussed ALICE, the ALICE report, and of course, what the acronym is for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, Employed. And we talked about the annual report and really how many people continually year after year are struggling paycheck to paycheck in Connecticut. They might be people like your neighbors, you may not even understand, but it's really much more difficult now to make ends meet. And we discussed how Connecticut Paid Leave can help and how other programs can help as well. And Buzzsprout is the platform that we use. And in August of 2024, they had 120,571 active members. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because I'm going to our Buzzsprout page right now. And they did a review for us, and exciting news is that the Paid Leave podcast was in the top 50% of all those 120,571 podcasts that they have. And it was the average downloads in the first 7 days. So granted, I have a long way to go to get to number one, but those are usually the murder mysteries and the things that are really big on Spotify and all of those. But I was really pleased that we're in the top 50% of all of them. We do 2 podcasts a month, and as of Monday, it'll be 24 episodes. Our most popular zip codes, Bristol, in the last year, Bridgeport, West Hartford, New York, and Hartford, Connecticut. So those are the top 5 cities, and the top 20 countries are the US, Germany, Singapore, Canada, and Australia coming in a strong number 5. And I just get excited knowing that there's different countries that are actually listening to the podcasts. The top episodes of last year were celebrating diversity during Hispanic Heritage Month. During that month, I did 2 podcasts focusing on Hispanic Heritage Month. The second one was our CEO's personal struggle with cervical cancer, and Erin was so honest and open. And I think that is the value of the podcast, that they're a longer forum for us to talk about things, and stories really resonate with people. And it's evident with when people talk about their struggles and people talk about things that may resonate with other people. The third one was how paid leave can help support moms and babies with complications. A couple opens up about infertility, their IVF journey, and the joys of parenthood. The father had cystic fibrosis, so he had a chronic condition that we talked about. And it was a really sad but joyful conversation with them. And the final one was the difficulty of diagnosing and treating a brain injury. And so in review, we had 2,450 downloads, 24 episodes as of Monday when that one releases, in 20 countries, and 679, and I may just say edited minutes, because as Erin knows, I talk a lot, but I like to do that so I can edit and get the best quality in the podcast that I can. And again, we're top 50 of all the shows on Buzzsprout, which makes me very happy. I will stop sharing, and if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
So first, any questions for Nancy? Okay. So I want to acknowledge that I believe 2 members of the board have joined us. Let's run it. So welcome, Isha. Welcome, Ava. I believe that means we now have a quorum. So at that point, I'm going to double us back in the agenda. So first, review and approval of the November meeting minutes. First, is there any discussion of the November meeting minutes? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the November minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Ava. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Isha. All in favor of approving the November minutes, please say aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Sheila, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Next, in our continuing to double back, we had a preliminary non-voting discussion in the first minutes of the meeting about potentially changing the cadence of the meetings of this committee, where I think Sheila, Adrian, and I felt that meeting every other month could meet the goals of this committee. Before we talk about whether we want to make a motion, Isha or Ava, or if Adrian or Sheila have other thoughts, is there more discussion about potentially changing how often this committee meets?
I just want to say that I agree with the prior discussion of every other month. I'm in favor of that.
Thank you, Isha. Ava?
I wasn't here for the beginning of the conversation, but if it is every other month, I support that as well. And I'll wait for the motion officially.
Thank you, Ava. Before we move to a motion, we should figure out what the motion says. And particularly, I think it would probably be appropriate to just decide in which months we're meeting so we know what the every other month means, especially as we're adjusting. My recommendation, based on the very formal notes I just scribbled down for myself, is that rather than effectively skipping next month's meeting and starting with February, that we instead do January, March, May, July, September, November, because that helps us, 1, only have 1 meeting in the summer, which we tends to have lower attendance anyway, and 2, means we aren't scheduled for a December meeting, which the 3rd week of December meeting is often hard to get to consensus, quorum, not consensus. So if it pleases the committee, my suggestion would be that the motion be to have the committee meet every other month beginning with January of 2025, which will have the effect of keeping us on that January, March, May, July schedule.
Sounds good.
You just need somebody to make the motion, don't
Thank
you?
you.
Make the motion.
Thank you, Isha. Is there a second?
Second,
Thank you, Shayla. All those in favor of adopting the motion regarding the schedule of committee meetings, please say aye. Aye.
aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Thank you so much, everybody. And look forward to, I have great trust in the team, making sure the calendar invites and all of that stuff gets appropriately edited. And that also means that we're keeping the previously announced January meeting,
Correct.
which I realize we may have been obligated to do anyway. So I'm glad that we did that anyway. Thank you so much, everybody. So to jump us back down in the agenda to number 5, we have the presentation of the proposed budget for the 2025 Family Expo. Nicole and Jessica, turn it over to you.
Morning, everyone. I'm going to share my screen with you all. Just let me know if you can see it.
We can see the screen.
Thank you. All right, well, we just wanted to start with saying we really appreciate the opportunity to present this proposal a few months ago to the committee, and we appreciate your support in us going through this project. So today we're going to kind of take a dive into the budget. So since we last met, we really did our research and we've been talking about like what the budget would look like. So we've put this proposal for you in hopes of getting your feedback, getting your thoughts and your concerns on it, and then moving forward with then presenting to the full board of directors. So just to reel us back into what this really is, we are hoping on doing a family expo open to parents and families in Connecticut. And this is going to be the first event that our agency has ever really organized. We're striving for 100 to 200 attendees in total throughout the course of the day. And we're leaning towards having the event in Hartford on a Saturday in October of 2025. So our event goals are to, of course, educate our stakeholders and all of those who are participating in this event about Connecticut paid leave and really get our name out there and build top of mind awareness for our agency and for our program. Our second goal is to really continue to build and strengthen new and existing symbiotic relationships with all of the folks a part of this event. So like community partners, nonprofits, other state agencies, and it really gives them an opportunity to share their resources with our network and the participants of the event. So we've attended so many events throughout the years of where we are the ones tabling and bringing our resource to the event. So now this is a good way to kind of spin it and provide a space where they can do the same. And finally, we continue to want to build community and trust in the communities that we're serving. So we want to become trusted messengers by providing a space for families to feel welcomed and supported. And we hope that this expo does just that. Some additional details. Since we last met, we kind of discussed a little bit more of like the logistics and some of the things, right? Like the wish list that we have of things that we want to bring to life at this event. So we split it up into parents and children. So for parents, vendors will be available, including state agencies, local nonprofits, health providers, and small businesses focused on family resources. And so that will be through a resource fair at the event. We're also thinking of having like a passport initiative. For folks who don't know, there are some events that we've attended this past year where the event organizers create kind of like a passport for participants to visit every vendor. And so each vendor has like a sticker or a stamp that they sign off on their little passport space. And so at the end, once they visit all of the tables, they get they get some type of prize or get put into a raffle. So, we're really hoping on building that an incentive. And we're continuing to brainstorm partnerships with other organizations to provide that prize or raffle for parents who completely fill their passports. We're also thinking of working with a Rotary Club to have Amber Alert ID cards made for all the children there. So for the parents to have that for their kids. And of course, we can't go wrong with providing our goodie bags, our famous Connecticut Paid Leave merch. So we're going to be giving that to parents as they check in. And we're discussing ways to have food options on site for individual purchase from participants. And then for children, so what can keep our kids engaged and excited about this event? We're asking every vendor to bring something fun to give the children that stop by their tables with their parents. So whether that's like candy or stickers or something of the sort, something fun. Since this will be in October, we're hoping that this will be Halloween themed. So we're really, really trying to step into that and have like Halloween themed crafts and activity stations. And we hope to partner with CREC and or the Hartford Public School System to give older students like an opportunity to help run these stations and give them like volunteer hours. We're also hoping to partner with the Hartford Fire Department and police departments to do like the touch a truck for the kids. And then children are, of course, encouraged to wear Halloween costumes. We'll have that in the media and the advertising, the flyers. And we're going to have a Polaroid camera photo booth with props. And we're thinking of also having face painting and balloon twisting. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next slide. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jess.
So just in terms of marketing and promotion, our brainstorming with you all when we first presented this was really helpful. So we've put together a preliminary marketing and promotional plan. So we do want to do a dedicated social campaign that will target families with young children and expectant parents, and that will include search, display, and social media advertising. We also would reallocate a portion of our normal advertising buys in the Hartford market, which would include some of our TV, radio, print, and outdoor specifically to promote this event. We can also, call upon our media partners that we have longstanding relationships with to provide us with some added value to help promote this even further. Maybe that's through radio interviews, inclusion in their event calendars or newsletters. We want to do targeted family activity websites. And thank you to Molly for letting us know about the Macaroni Kid website. Others would also be Mommy Poppins and Kidtivity.com. So these are just websites that are really focused on, parents with young families and what events are going on, what resources, etc. So we can do display ads, newsletter inclusion, event calendar inclusion, etc. We would design and print handouts to share not only with our exhibitors and partners, but also to provide at our other outreach events, local businesses that make sense to help promote this, etc. We also would call upon our community education coordinators, since we'll be, well into our partnerships with them, and ask them to share the information as they are conducting outreach. And then we'd also, of course, make use of the free platforms such as Eventbrite to help promote. So pretty robust campaign, some new things, but also, using the existing relationships we have to make a big splash.
All right, so now this is kind of the breakdown of the budget. So for the venue, it'd be $1,500. For decorations, $550. For entertainment, as you can see in the yellow, those would be all like the entertainment or promotion type of things. So we're thinking face painting for $550, balloon twisting for $550, and these things would go for the full time. So that is an all-encompassing total for the 4 hours of our event. Craft supplies and miscellaneous items. So these are things like, the props for the photo booth or other things that we would want to give the kids or the families, things like that. $2,000. And then for advertising and marketing and promotional material, we suggest $10,000. And then based off of this, we created a contingency line of $1,515. So it brings our totals to $16,665. So this is our budget. We would love to hear all of your thoughts, opinions, concerns, feedback that would help us move forward in this process and then move forward with presenting to the full board of directors in the new year.
Thank you so much, Nicole and Jess. questions or feedback for the team?
I
I
think
the
this is great. I'll just chime in here. Like the format and truly understand the goals that are there. I guess the question that I just have on my own, do we think that parents may want to actually, I don't know, be serviced in any way if we're inviting our community partners or nonprofits or state agencies, knowing that we have literature or things like that, but do we think there's an expectation, that our families may want to take it further than a brochure, or I'm just throwing it out there.
I think that that's a really great thought, Isha, that I can't say that we've actually gone that deep into the discussion, but I think that that's a really smart thing as we're talking with the different partners that we want to invite, to ask them if they do want to provide services while they're there, and that can be something that we build into our promotion of it. So while you're there, come and visit XYZ agency where they'll have representatives who can help you, accomplish this. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I do think that that would be valuable. The more we can make it like a one-stop shop for folks where, we're luring them in with the, the fun and something to do with their kids, but really we want to be able to help the parents disseminating information and getting services that they need. So I think that's a great individual conversation for us to have with each partner and see what they want to offer while they're on site.
Yeah, absolutely.
Other questions or feedback?
I was wondering, let me see, am I muted? No, I was wondering on the numbers, which of those are maybe approximations, or which ones did you research to say, yep, this is the actual cost of this? And I may have missed it. If I did, I apologize. Had you identified a venue or potential venues for this?
Yeah, so we have with all of the line items, we have gotten sort of preliminary quotes from anywhere from 2 to 3 different organizations that provide either the entertainment or venues that we think might be a good fit. We took the high range of those because we'd always like to be able to say we came in under budget, but we want to give ourselves the cushion if we need it. So those are all based on quotes that we've gotten from different potential vendors.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
One thing just, and this was at my request, we did not identify any of the specific venues because once things go up on the internet, they live forever. So I didn't want to have names of locations out there if they don't turn out to not be the locations we send people, because I'd hate to have someone Googling this in October and go to the wrong place.
Yeah, that's good context. I think the event is excellent. I think leaning into the Halloween thing is brilliant. I think to Isha's point, one thing that would be worth exploring is, at least for adults, whether we could provide flu shots.
Oh, great idea.
Right?
Yeah.
That's like a common thing in October is a really good time. I know it's more complex to do it for kids, but at least for adults, like that is a thing that you could check off your list there, and seems very fitting with the mission and the appraisal, and it's a kind of thing that the kinds of partners we'd be looking for often do. So that might be one thing to consider, but I think this is great. I think there's lots of time to figure out all of the specifics. I do want to know if we have CT paid leave coloring sheets yet.
We've talked about
The
that, and we
the
need to
logo would
create
make a
those.
really good coloring sheet.
Exactly. It's on
Um,
your list.
And they're, having done a variety of these kinds of events, they are almost always the cheapest form of kid entertainment to provide, even if you're giving crayons, and then you can print them on site. So I think this is fantastic. My understanding is, other than our general thoughts, you don't need anything from us to move this forward to the next board meeting. Is that correct?
Correct. We want to bring it to the full board, but we wanted to make sure that you all didn't have any, major concerns with the budget or any of the elements before we open it up to the wider group.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you for the clarification. I think the budget seems appropriate and well thought through, and I appreciate the context of the goal is to build in margin with the hope to come in under, but to make sure that you have appropriate authority to do what you need to do. Anything else on this before we move on to the next item on the agenda? Okay. Is there any old business anyone would like to raise? Is there any new business anyone would like to raise? Okay. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Adrienne. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Thank you, Isha. Any discussion of the motion to adjourn? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. This meeting's adjourned. The time is 9:43. Thank you so much, and we'll see everyone in the new year.
Yes,
Thank
happy
you.
holidays,
Thank you.
everyone.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Take care.